Pesticide Recordkeeping. This module will help you understand the record-keeping requirements for all private applicators. So why keep records of pesticide applications? Well, there's many great reasons. Many farmers or agricultural producers have been keeping pesticide records long before it was required for us to do so. Record keeping is a great part of the integrated pest management. It can help you reduce pesticide mistakes or misuse. Also, if a pest is not controlled, if damage has occurred in the targeted area, or if a pesticide has moved off target and caused problems, you may be able to determine a little bit better what went wrong. Records may help you to determine that a particular pesticide, a particular formulation, a type of application equipment, or some condition in the treatment area actually caused the problem. Good records can also help you better determine the exact amount of pesticide you'll need. Record keeping allows the applicator, you, to look long term at the management of the products that you're going to use. This will help you make decisions on mode of action of rotations and on also the amount of particular products you will need to purchase annually. This helps to manage pesticide resistance and avoid over-purchasing some products which don't store well over time. So ultimately, improving your profit and cutting down on the things that hurt your back wallet. Pesticide records also provide you proof of proper pesticide use and compliance with the label. Remember, the label is the law, and it's always great that you keep records showing that you have done everything that the label has stated. If there's ever a question or complaint about a pesticide application, the first step will be to check the applicator's records. They provide you with the information to use in response to the claim of excess residues or damages, and also can be helpful for medical staff if the need should arise. The record-keeping requirements vary a little bit. As you can see here on this screen, the requirements for pesticide record-keeping fall under both state and federal law. Each of these have some different requirements, but you must comply with each of them. In the 1990 Farm Bill, it stated that all private applicators are required by law to keep records of their federally restricted use pesticide applications on record for 2 years. The EPA Worker Protection Standards require records must be kept for 30 days after the end of a restricted entry interval for the respective pesticide. There are some exceptions to that. For agricultural owners in family farm situations, they're not required to record this information for themselves or members of their immediate family, but the information must be recorded if an employee is from outside the immediate family. The types of information kept for worker protection standards does differ a little bit from the required USDA requirements. Finally, Kentucky law states that private and commercial pesticide applicators maintain records for all pesticide applications for 3 years. So make sure that you definitely keep your records at least a minimum of 3 years. USDA and KDA representatives have the legal right to review records at any time. First responders, including doctors, EMS, and fire personnel, must also be able to review these records. So it's important to keep good records. For every restricted use application, you need to record the following information, as you can see on the list here. From the pesticide label, you'll need to record the brand name and the EPA registration number, which can be found on the front of the label. We'll look at a label here shortly, and we'll point out where you can find different things. You need to record the date and the location of the application. The location of the application may be the name of a field or the GPS coordinates. You cannot just put your farm's address. Record what was treated, the type of crop or commodity, the product or site. Record the size of the area treated, so how many acres, and total amount of product used. And then finally, record the name of the applicator and their certification number. The worker protection standards do require a few additional things that we stated before. So for worker protection standards for record keeping, you will need to add in for those records for all applications, not just restricted use. But you'll have to have the brand name, EPA registration number, and location of application, which is all part of the USDA requirements. And then you'll also need to add in the start and end time of the application, record the active ingredient, and restricted entry interval for the product. Here on the little chart, you can see the additional things. We also have some additional requirements for the state. It is required that you do record the application information within 14 days of the application. And again, how many of us can remember what we did yesterday? So it's just important for us to go ahead at the time that we're doing it, record it, because otherwise we may forget. I know I certainly would. You'll need to keep these records for 3 years, as we stated a couple of slides ago. And for anyone who contracts applications, then you would need to record the name and address of the person receiving the service. You then must give that customer a copy of the records within 30 days of application. Here you'll see an example record keeping form. This form will comply with the state, USDA, and the Worker Protection Standards record keeping requirements. The columns from field number through chemical type are all filled out for every applicator, and the last 3 columns are filled in for farms that need to comply with the Worker Protection Standards. The first column is field number or name of the field. So for example, this could be Hill Field, field number 5, whatever is going to be the easiest for you to identify that field. I'm certain that we all have names for the field so that we can always identify them. The 4th column is what was treated. So it's whatever the crop or whatever was there. So for example, was it the soybean field or was it stored corn? Rates can be entered on a per acre basis or another unit based on how the rate appears on the label. The volume of water or carrier per acre refers to how much diluted materials is applied per acre. For example, this could be 23 gallons per acre. The purpose of application could be general weed control or targeting a particular disease or insect problem. And then for chemical type, you can circle G or R, and this will indicate whether it's a general or restricted use pesticide. For time of application, you need to indicate the start and finish time of the application. So let's just look at an example here. It's 7 p.m. today, and you just finished treating a 10-acre cornfield on the hill for stink bugs with a low rate of Blastum 2EC. It took you 4 hours to do the job, and you sprayed a total of 200 gallons of diluted spray. Fill out the record-keeping form as you would for this application, as if you have 4 employees and need to comply with worker protection standards. So, just looking at what all we need to fill in, we're just going to break it down section by section. So for this first section, we want to put in our field number. Again, this is just going to be how you're easily going to be identifying it. So in the example, I thought easy way to identify it would be, it said it was a cornfield on the hill. So I've just got field number 1, corn on the hill. The date of application, we're applying it today. So at the time of this recording, it's 2/18/21. So that would be the date I would apply in this box. For the applicator name, it states in the example that you are the applicator. So it would be your name and your certification number. So I'm just using my name and then a little example number. For the crop product treated, we can tell in the example that it's corn. And for the size of the area, it is 10 acres. We finished treating a 10-acre cornfield on the hill. Moving on to the next section of information on the record keeping form, we look at the product name. Where do we find the product name? We find it on the label, the first page of the label. So we can see here that's the Blastum 2EC. And the registration number, the EPA registration number, is also found on the front of the label. And here you can see in the red rectangle on the little blurb of the example we have here, the EPA registration number is 1234567. Moving on to the total amount applied. You'll see here, I pulled this little field corn blurb off of page 3 of the label. So you have to look at your label, all sections of it, to be able to find some of this information. for your record keeping. So total amount applied. So we have a 10-acre field, and it says we're applying the low rate. So we want to look at the low rate on the label, and it says 2.1 through 6.4. So we know that we want to apply 2.1 fluid ounces per acre. If we have 10-acre field, we would just multiply that 2.1 times the 10 acres, and we'll come up with that 21 ounces. And then for the rate per acre, you'll see it's the 2.1 ounces. Moving on to the next section of the record keeping form, we'll put in the volume of water or carrier per acre. So we know that we have applied 200 gallons of diluted spray on our 10 acres. So we would just take that 200 gallons divided by the 10-acre field to see how many gallons per acre we applied. And we would get the 20 gallons per acre. The purpose of the application, again, you can read in our example here, we're treating a 10-acre cornfield on the hill for stink bugs. So here I would put stink bug control. And then for the chemical type, if it's general or restricted use, you would find this information on the front of your label. And here you can see in the red box on the label, it says restricted use pesticides. So we would circle the R. And for the last section, this is for the worker protection standards. We would put in the restricted entry interval. This I found under the agricultural use requirements on page 2 of the label. Here you'll see it in the red rectangle, and it's 12 hours. The time of application, and here we do need to add the start time and the end time, but we do know we ended at 7 p.m. and it took us 4 hours. So we would need to actually put the whole time slot here, but at least put the time when you ended, because you know you cannot have anyone enter that field for 12 hours because you ended at 7 p.m. No one can get in there until 12 hours after you finished applying the product. And for the active ingredients, you will also find this on the front of your label. And you'll see here, I have the little blurb. Active ingredient is a dilithium. So you would add that into that part of the Worker Protection Standards section, since we do have folks that we need to comply with that rule for.